Hello, everyone. I hope all of you can hear me properly. So IMS welcomes you all to this webinar series called Future You, Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm Kalyani, your host for today's webinar. So for all of you attendees who have not attended our first Future You episode, here's a little brief about what exactly Future You is all about. So basically, IMS has envisioned the series, Future You, to give the MBA aspirants the clarity and the guidance that they seek. So we are continuing on this series with careers in marketing. So today we have a speaker who works with Reckitt Benckiser. Other brands are household names like Airwick, Dettol, Lysol, Vanish, Veet, and more. And our speaker today is Tanmay Mapsekar. He's the National Key Account Manager at Reckitt Benckiser. He completed his MBA from NMIMS. Find out, so he's going to be talking about what are the responsibilities of a key account manager and the crucial role it plays in sales and marketing, and also in a company. Also how an area sales manager role can open up opportunities in key account management, brand management, and more. Tanmay is extremely passionate about sales, and he can provide a blueprint on how to attain success in sales and marketing. So all of you MBA aspirants, if you have any questions, just type in your questions and we will take it as we move along on this presentation. Hi, Tanmay Mapsekar. Thank you so much for being here. So let's start with your career trajectory, right from your engineering days to NMIMS and to Reckitt Benckiser.
Yeah, so thank you, Kalyani, for that introduction. Hi everyone. Largely Kalyani has covered a good bit of my background, but some bit that maybe she did not, have. So basically, I'm till 12th grade. I was one of those guys who did not have any career plans, and I think I ended up in engineering. And obviously I loved gaming, so that is why I thought computer engineering is the kind of engineering I should be doing. I did computer engineering, and during computer engineering itself, again I realized that I did not have a passion for coding. And then I thought that, okay, what next? And ultimately during the third year of my engineering, I decided that I would want to do an MBA. And so after that I started preparing for MBA, and then I was able to get through NMIMS in the first attempt itself. So basically I am a fresher with no work ex when I went into a B school. So I think it's a good opportunity for you guys, because largely back then when I did my MBA in 2014, we did not have these kind of sessions wherein we got an idea as to what everyone tells you what to do once this school you need to get into. These are the top B schools. What once you get into a B school? I think that was something that was always something that I did not know, and it was something that I explored once I got into a B school. So I think it's a good opportunity for you to know that, okay, I get into this B school. After this, the first 3-4 months, this is something that I need to do. These are the career options that I need to follow. I think that's a good opportunity for you guys. So basically once I got into my B school, I was again summer internship. Frankly speaking, I did not know there was something called summer internships. I did not know there was something we had to make certain CVs and then run for CV pointers and everything. So yeah, that was a new experience for me, and I was like, okay, let's do it. As a fresher, again, in most B schools, the sectors that are open for you largely are maybe an FMCG sector, maybe an e-commerce sector. Consulting or all these sectors require some amount of work experience that you might have. Freshers are normally, inclined towards finance or maybe FMCG. So yeah, I was clueless when I got into the V school, and I was like, okay, if everybody's saying FMCG, then obviously I have to think of FMCG as a career. And yeah, so I single-mindedly started focusing on FMCG companies. So most FMCG companies, just to give you a perspective, hire through summer internships. Very few FMCG companies hire via final placements. So I think summer internships are something which happened, around September, October, once you get into a B school around June. So I think getting into a FMCG company, largely in the current scenario, especially with COVID impacting, I think most companies will be hiring through summer internships. So it's extremely important for us to be able to, make sure that we target those first 4 or 5 months as seriously as possible. And yeah, so basically I got into Perfetti. Perfetti hired for 40 odd summer interns in India. And then we had multiple rounds wherein we had presentations to the regional team, to the national team, and the leadership team. And then after around 4 to 5 rounds, 3 individuals were basically given a pre-placement offer, and I was one of them. Yeah, so largely that has been my career. After that, I've worked for Perfetti for close to 1.5 year, and then I went into RB as an ASM. But yeah, this is generally the structure of my career so far. Yeah.
Right. So we have actually a question for you. Could you please elaborate on what job roles in marketing and brand management does an MBA graduate get as a starting job in the FMCG sector? And what
So
are the roles?
as a starting job, 9 out of 10 times you will not get a job in brand management and marketing. I think that's a aspiration that everyone has कि brand manager बनना है. Once I get into a company, FMCG company की इस brand का brand manager बनना है. The journey is slightly longer in most cases. Again, there are certain exceptions in certain organizations which maybe give you a brand management role, but 99% of the times you will not get a brand management role. You will have to go through a stint of 2.5 years in sales, wherein you handle a territory and geography, and then basis obviously performance and how you're able to understand the processes and systems, and obviously your performance, you are able to move across not just brand management but multiple verticals, be it trade marketing, be it key account management, be it brand management. So yeah, that's the brief gist of it.
So is it more challenging for a fresher for getting a summer placement in B school? Somebody asked.
Not really, not really. I think that so again, frankly speaking, earlier there used to be assumptions that FMCG sector is largely for freshers, and there are certain sectors which are largely for people with work ex. But the dynamics are rapidly changing. I don't think there is anyone at a disadvantage, not even a fresher, in terms of trying for other industries or not, as long as you know your basics, and also for an individual who has work ex who maybe wants to try in FMCG. So I think those things were things of past, but I don't feel that those restrictions are there right now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's then take from area sales manager, your role as the area sales manager at RB.
Agreed.
And then, you can actually take it also to how this particular role can open up opportunities for brand management, key account management.
Sure. So I think more often than not, I think area sales manager is a job or is a role which you will be doing. If you enter FMCG, 99% of you will be doing a role as an area sales manager. And I think one thing that is good about this particular role is that it challenges you unlike anything else. I don't think there is a role which is present in the current scenario which might challenge you as much as an area sales manager. So just to give you a perspective, during my area sales manager role, I have pretty much in the past 2.5 years, there are hardly 3-4 states in India that have not touched. And by touched, I mean I would have spent at least a week in a particular state. So I think it gives you an opportunity to interact with people and meet people. It challenges you because the way, so my first stint was as an ASM was in Andhra Pradesh. The way the people of Andhra Pradesh work or the way they talk, and obviously the language barriers are there, but the professionalism and everything varies completely different to how my previous ASM stint was in Pune, how people in Maharashtra work. Similarly, how people in Northeast work, that is completely different. I think that exposes you to a kind of people management bit that not a single role in any industry or any sector will be able to give you, exposure to. So I think it's good for people who like to meet new people. again, I think there's a myth that people need to be extroverted to be an ASM. I
Yes.
think that's a big myth. And being very frank, I was a very introverted individual back, when I just came into becoming a professional. And I think this particular role has played a major role in developing my personality and being able to talk to so many of you right now. I think that's something I would not have imagined had it been not been for this role. So I think it gives you an exposure to, it challenges you definitely. I think I've had some tough days. I think every job does, and at the end of it, it adds value to you, not just in terms of career prospects, but also in terms of your own personality building. Because I don't think a proper office desk job would have been able to build my personality to the level this particular role has been able to. So that is there. Again, uh, the one more thing that ASM role gives you an opportunity is in terms of career flexibility. I think if you go to LinkedIn and check people's career, I think people who have worked as an ASM, you will see them in every single sector. I think you could see people who were ASMs who ended up becoming consultants. You could see people who are ASMs have joined maybe pharma industry as brand managers or whatever roles. You will see them in e-commerce. I think in terms of career flexibility, FMCG is one sector that offers you the level of career flexibility that no other sector will be able to offer. So I think that is the one bit that I would say that works in ASM's, the role's favor. Obviously, it's challenging. I think it will be challenging. There will be dark days. There will be great days as well when you do your numbers. There will be dark days when you're not able to achieve your targets. But then that's part of every job as such. So yeah.
What are the other most coveted roles barring FMCG sales for marketing and MBA?
In what sector?
So basically, is
So
somebody
basically,
asking as in, other than FMCG, what are the other areas where one can actually find jobs in sales and
so
marketing?
so more often than not, obviously, an
It's coveted roles is what he's saying.
yeah, coveted roles would be, yeah, it depends. I think coveted roles varies from person to person. For some individual, sales could be a coveted role. For some individual, category management could be a coveted role. So I think it depends largely on your personality and how you think and everything, and how you have planned your career to be able to tell you. Again, as far as coveted roles are concerned, I think uh, you can become a category manager for in one of the e-commerce organizations once you have moved from FMCG. Because obviously, just to give you perspective, I used to get a lot of calls for category manager roles in Amazons and Flipkarts of the world. So basically, category management is basically handling a complete category, handling the PNL of that particular category, handling the promos and promotions that you will be running, and then ultimately driving business. So I think different kinds of role. Brand management obviously is a role that is the most coveted role among all people. But then the reality that people normally talk about brand management, I think brand management is the end all for everyone in FMCG, but there are other roles which are as good and as enriching as a brand management role. And obviously, in terms of brand management, the systems and processes in very big organizations are largely defined. And obviously, the creative input that people think that advertisement banayenge, I think brand management is very different from that. Brand management is to do with a lot of other things rather than making advertisements. So yeah, that is a bit that people need to understand, that advertisements, you don't make advertisements. There are hundreds of agencies like Ogilvy's of the world who actually do these things. So yeah.
So, as you said, consulting roles require job experience. Do general management roles also fall in same category, or the recruiters prefer freshers as for marketing and sales? This is a question
Normally,
from
consulting has been something that people with work ex, so freshers were in during my times, freshers didn't even look for consulting roles, did not even apply for consulting roles. So I think largely it has a work experience bend of required, but then yeah, I think it varies from B schools to B schools. Yeah.
So, okay, what are the perks of an MBA graduate working in an institution as compared to regular graduate? As in basically,
Okay.
an
Yeah.
MBA.
So obviously MBA will give you opportunities that were not available to you as a normal graduate. Uh, I think the biggest delta would be in terms of the salary that you draw. That is something that everyone will be interested in. There is a huge difference in the salary that you would get post an engineering. Again, I'm talking about like for like colleges. There will be a significant difference. Again, within B school also there'll always be a bell curve. There'll be people who will be placed very well. There'll be people who will be placed on an average salary, or there'll be people who will be placed slightly lower. But even if you consider the lower salary brackets, they are significantly higher than what you would get in case of an average engineering job or an average graduate job. So I think that is one thing in terms of salary. Second bit is largely in terms of the career opportunities and the roles and the responsibilities you have. I think once you do an MBA, your role becomes slightly more strategic and slightly more your decisions play a major role in terms of driving business. I think that is the biggest advantage that you get. And obviously I think largely 90% of the times in most companies that you would see, the CEOs of the companies are largely people who have done MBA, because technical education is required to be able to look at things in a different perspective. It's not that MBAs are only the people who can become CEOs, nothing like that. But the percentage of people who are CEOs, largely MBAs would be a larger percentage of close to 80-90%. So yeah, right. I think that is something that MBA offers you.
Now let's focus on your present role. So tell us about a day in your life as a national.
So I'll first take you through the ASM role, because I think that is something that people need to understand. Right. So obviously we talked about why career in FMCG. Again, one more thing that maybe we did not cover is why career in FMCG. I think in current scenario, everyone must have looked at essentials. Essentials are allowed for supply. I think current crisis has gotten people. So what are essentials? Essentials are generally FMCG products. I think FMCG products are essentials. And I think when most of the organizations are struggling to even get a penny of revenue, FMCG companies continue to function. Obviously, the extent of functioning is slightly subdued, largely because of manpower issues. But I think that is the difference. I think FMCG industries is an industry which offers a lot of job stability. When the startups of the world are largely struggling right now because of the current scenario, I think that is something that why FMCG is largely, that is the reason why FMCG, it offers you a career path. Your career path in FMCG will be slightly slower than a career path in, say, a fast growing e-commerce company, but then the job stability bit, I think it's a cost benefit analysis as to what you want. So that is the first bit. Again, as I said, advantages of career in FMCG, I would say that why FMCG is largely because of job stability, because of multitude of roles that you are able to get exposure to, obviously personality development, and you can move across industries. You can move from FMCG to e-com to pharma to consulting as well. And yeah, and career path in FMCG, obviously we have talked about, you start as an ASM, you start as a management trainee. You have different companies have a different management trainee stint. Some companies have a 1 year of management trainee stint. Some companies have 2 years of 1.5 years of management. Some have 6 months of management trainee stint. So post your management trainee stint, you become an ASM. So largely the name area sales manager. Some companies call it area business manager. Some call it business development manager, but largely the role is same. So what an ASM largely does is manages a geography. So the business and the fundamentals like there is a local kirana shop next to your place. I think if do I have Lysol present there? I think making sure with my set of people, my set of distributors, my set of sales officers, that maximum number of outlets have Lysol present, so that when you visit the store, you will get that particular SKU. So these are the bits that a ASM does. I have a so I have a team of, I used to have a team of close to 9 individuals who were direct reportees who used to manage the distributors. So FMCG is largely driven by distribution and distributors, and distributors do the job of distributing your products in the market. Obviously company gives them a margin for so that they are able to recover the cost that they incur during distribution. At the same time, they earn some money. So that is the job of an ASM. My job is to manage stakeholders. That is the biggest bit. If I were to define ASM's job, it will be stakeholder management. I think stakeholder people management, that is my job. Managing my team, ensuring my sales officers are motivated and doing their best, ensuring that my distributors are motivated and doing their best and their issues and challenges are addressed. I think that is the major job that I would do. Obviously, I would have a team of salesmen which are largely on distributors' payroll. Again, ensuring that the attrition there is low. I think ASM's role is largely people management. Again, managing your boss, that is the biggest bit. That is also one bit that people don't talk about. I think managing your boss is as important as managing your sales officers. And yeah, so that is largely a role that an ASM does, delivering numbers. Obviously, FMCG is all about targets, having targets, and delivering on those targets is what you're supposed to do. And obviously, there are different levers that you can drive, but largely that is your job. If you do deliver numbers and deliver distribution, you are a good ASM. If you're not, then largely you're not a good ASM.
Okay, so let's take a question now. How hard is it to change career from ASM to general manager role or consulting?
Again, ASM is a largely generic role. I think obviously what you need to understand that is that the sheer number of FMCG companies is huge. And in some cases, it is possible, but it is slightly difficult to move into consulting right from an ASM role because the total number of ASMs in the country is huge. So within RB also, we have 70 odd ASMs. You just multiply it with the number of FMCG companies we have, the pool becomes too big. So obviously ASM to consulting is slightly tough, but once you move from ASM to a different kind of a role, have some experience, slightly specialized work experience, then it becomes slightly easier.
Yeah. And so somebody has asked, what happens when you fail to achieve a target?
Nothing happens. I think
Bold.
you won't find any ASM who has done targets in his entire stint without missing a target. I have missed. I would say that I have missed targets in as many months as I have delivered targets, and I think I have done decently well in my career. So nothing happens. I think obviously it's a humbling experience that you feel like you are so educated, and yet there are certain things which are beyond your control. I think it gives you certain kinds of learning. Obviously, you will, internalize and try to retrospect as to what went wrong, and maybe you learn from that. I think nothing happens in terms of your career being bad. Again, if you not deliver numbers for a longer duration of 1 year, then it becomes a problem. Obviously, the ratings get affected because at the end of the day, the company has only a fixed amount of increment that they can give. So if you are not among the good performers, then obviously you will not get a great rating. But yeah, I think you will have months where you don't deliver numbers. I had a lot of months where I did not deliver numbers. So it's okay.
So a lot of people are actually now asking about your key account manager. What is it? How different it is from
So
can you tell us the difference between what is a key account manager and an account manager? As in, how different are those? Are these?
I will tell you. First of all, again, so I told you everyone is now nobody is interested in knowing about ASM. But guys, 3 years, at least 2.5, 3 years of ASM is necessary and essential for you to think about other careers. Once you're out of ASM, there are multiple opportunities. The organization will have different kind of roles. Some of the examples would be brand management, brand manager. Some would be a key account manager. Some roles would be trade marketing manager, where you manage trade marketing bit, and some would be a sales development manager. So these are the 3 to 4 options that normally an ASM gets. I think key account management is largely different in different, the overall tenets remain the same. I think key account management is largely managing key accounts. I think in my previous roles, this is also stakeholder management bit. So largely FMCG, and I think in fact every organization, every industry, every sector is stakeholder management. I think key account management is largely stakeholder management. In my current role, I'm handling 4 accounts: ABRL, Spencer's, Ratnadeep, and Spar. Depending upon which part of the country you are in. If you're in Hyderabad, you will know Ratnadeep. If you are in any part of the country, you'll know ABRL, more retail limited, and then Spencer's if you're largely in eastern part of the country, and Spar if you're in south or north. So these are the accounts that I handle. A role of key account management is basically managing these accounts. How do you manage these accounts? And obviously, key account management happens both ways. So I am a key account manager. There are key account manager in say an ABRL who manages multiple vendors. For them, accounts would be an RB, an HUL, a PNG. So largely the lingo changes, but the end goal is the same: managing your accounts and managing the P&L of your business. So yeah.
So tell us about a day in your life as a national key account manager at RB. Like, you wake up in the morning, you go to office, and then what happens? Like,
Yeah. So right now I don't go to the office, but
yes, of
yeah.
course, nobody is.
So
We're all working from home. So
yeah. So yeah, key account. So a day in my life is, so obviously once you move from ASM, which is a team management role, this is largely an individual role, individual contributor role. I think whatever needs to be done by me. Obviously, there are multiple regional key account managers who manages business in regions like ASMs. They are basically modern trade ASMs. My job largely involves interacting with the accounts, which are ABRLs and Spencers, and interacting with them and planning how are we going to like maybe an expander category. If I see maybe bathroom cleaner category is not doing as well as I think or they think, then we plan how do we expand the category. Do we run a particular promo offer? Because I have a fixed amount of money to run, and at the end of the day I have to manage with that money, and to ensure that I maximize the efficiency, the ROI of that particular rupee. So if I invest 1 rupee, I should ideally get the maximum benefits out of that. So I think interacting with the uh, account will always have ridiculous expectations, but I think managing expectations is one bit that you need to do on a daily basis, because you also are limited in terms of the overall expenditure that you can do, and managing the expectations of the account at the same time ensuring that you maximize your business is largely what you do. And ensuring that the best highest of fill rates are given to these particular accounts, and ensuring that the business is driven. Obviously, I also interact with the accounts that when you go to multiple modern trade format stores, you see that there are certain companies have additional assets. When I talk about assets, so if you look at a modern trade store can be divided into two parts. One part will be the category. So you will know that okay, toilet cleaners are found in this particular part of the store. That will always be fixed. But throughout the store, you will find certain places where you do not expect to see a toilet cleaner, but you see a floor stack unit where lots of toilet cleaners have been arranged. So I think those are the additional assets that you basically take with the store. You interact with the store and take those assets, and basically the end objective is to drive visibility and driving business. And yeah, so largely managing, this is the external managing, external stakeholder management. Internally, obviously you manage stocks, you manage stock movements, you manage promo offers for that various SKUs, and that is largely what you do as a key account manager. At the end of the day, for the amount that you have, you need to obviously ensure that you deliver the business and also ensure that the market share loss does not happen. So yeah.
So tell us about a challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it? And as in how challenging and rewarding it is. Can you just take one example, like say something happened, some kind of a issue?
So the beauty of this particular role is that I cannot tell you that there is one challenge that I faced that was the biggest challenge of my life. I
Right.
think
Like
every single day you will get different kinds of challenges where
Okay.
the account is not willing to listen to you, where the account is not willing to. So there will be multiple negotiations where you would want to have maybe you want ideally every negotiation you would want a win-win situation. I think that is the best way. But there are certain situations wherein you need to decide that okay, this is not a win-win situation. I cannot negotiate on this. So So there are certain things, I think, understanding where to relent and where not to relent. I think that's the bit where I think it becomes a bit challenging, because again, earlier it was distributors. Distributors are not as educated as, because right now suddenly the counterparts that I'm facing are MBAs as well. And obviously they would also want to maximize and get a bang for the buck. I think that is the difference, that role of an ESM versus the role of a key account management is.
Hmm. So, so what does it take to be a key account manager? Like, as in, again, the skills, the kind of, maybe, the kind of aptitude you should
I
have.
think uh, I think aptitude, I don't think there is, I think, issue in terms of aptitude. If anyone has gotten into a B school, you have aptitude. I think obviously the bell curve will exist always. There'll be people who will be better than you. There'll be people who will be as good as you. There'll be people who might not be.
Maybe like range of skills required for.
So a range of skills, obviously you need to be a people person. I think you need to be able to communicate. And I think what MBA teaches you, even MBA does a significant bit in that. MBA teaches you is to understand communication. I think at the end of the day, communication skills is one of the most underrated yet most important skills to have. I think a career in FMCG will definitely challenge you, push you, and maybe sometimes break you, but it will build you up. I think you will be a better communicator. You will be a better people manager at the end of the stint. I think that is the most important bit. I think challenging yourself every day. I think improving on your skills that you have. I think people management is going to be the most important skills. How do you manage people? Obviously it's not a rocket science that, okay, these are the formula to be followed, this is the step to be followed. Every individual is slightly different, so obviously you will learn with experience. I think that is the one bit. And communication skills, I think B schools will improve your communication skills, but at the same time you need to work yourself to improve your communication skills. I think that is the most important bit, because I think you can do the best of work, but if you're not able to present that, okay, I was able to do this, then you will never get the credit you deserve. And a lot of time it also happens that maybe you did not do the best of work, but because of your communication skills, you got the credit you did not deserve. So that's not a bad position to be in.
So,
Yeah.
but so as you said, key account manager, the tasks of the variety of tasks, right, involved in it. So, what are a few different options for potential career paths? Like after this, what? Like after KM,
the
then
beauty
what?
of the FMCG companies is that you get a wide range of roles.
So,
I think.
so that also
Yeah.
gives me another question. As in, is the job role very different for a key account manager in an FMCG sector from another sector, or
Not really. I think the largely your objective is to get maximum business for the minimum amount of money expenditure. So I think that remains the same across sectors. Managing stakeholder bit remains same across sectors. I think that does not change. What next? I think there are two types of movements. You maybe move up in current role. I think moving to a bigger business. I think so. Obviously, key account managers also, like ASMs, have different size of business. So you maybe move to a bigger and more complex customer, or you can move to handle slightly bigger business. Maybe you can move to a completely different kind of. So frankly speaking, I am one of those individuals who would like to learn new things. I think is key account management something that I want to do for the rest of my life? Probably, I don't know. So obviously I would want to get exposure to trade marketing. Maybe I would like to get exposure to e-commerce. A lot of organizations, in fact most organizations, give you that opportunity. If you are among the performing individuals, they give you those opportunities where you challenge yourself, because obviously learning curve tapers off after some point of time, and if you feel, then organizations are obviously help you to challenge yourself even more.
So also key account management can drive more value than traditional sales? Is it
Not
true?
really. So I think obviously key account management is going to be the future in terms of businesses. I think if you look at, if individuals have gone outside India, you must have seen that the number of mom and pop stores, say I've would be significantly lesser than the number of malls and large format stores. So obviously as the country progresses, the way of shopping and the shopper marketing changes largely as a country progresses, and ultimately in the end it will be something which is slightly closer to these modern countries. Obviously traditional trade is not going to disappear, especially in a country like India with the size and the scope of the country and the geography that we have and the population we need to cater to. Traditional trade is not going to disappear. Obviously the model that might get followed in India would be something completely different. I think
Right.
biggest players are getting into grocery distribution. So
Yeah.
FMC, if you see Grofers, if you see Big Basket, obviously they were distributing grocery. But
Yeah.
right now you have Dunzos of the world and Swiggies and Zomatos and Amazons, and everyone is trying to get into distribution of grocery.
Right.
I think the model is going to get, I think it's anyone's guess how it will be. Again, it is here to stay because it is an essential.
So somebody asked, can you get an ASM role if you're just a graduate?
Yeah, I think different. So again, if you're just a graduate, you can get. So just to give you a perspective, there are certain companies which run graduate trainee program wherein graduates are hired from multiple certain B schools. Even RB does that, and so basically you join. So obviously the career trajectory would not be as steep as one with an MBA. I think that is the difference that you get. The career trajectory will be slightly stretched out if you join as a graduate, and that is the reason why an MBA adds value in terms of the pace of your career. But yeah, definitely different companies have these opportunities wherein you can join as a graduate. But again, it's basically a you need to align whether you are okay with doing this particular role for a slightly longer duration of time, because I think at the end of the day India's education system has been built in such a way that MBAs are largely required, but it's not impossible. So yeah.
Right. So obviously we always get one COVID-19 question in all
Yeah.
our sessions. So what was your strategy during COVID-19 to boost sales business?
So frankly speaking, I think COVID-19 is not something that anyone expected or anyone planned for or anyone knew. I think rather than having any particular strategy, it was more to do with being sensitive. I think if ensuring that the team is safe. I think if you are, the most important bit is people management. If you ensure that your team feels safe, I think they will perform to the best of their potential. And in this current scenario, I could have pushed people, say कि नौकरी चली जाएगी, ये चला जाएगा, वो चला जाएगा, to try my targets, but it wouldn't have resulted in anything. I think understanding the criticality, because right now every particular city is in a different state.
Yeah.
There will be certain cities which are not at all affected. There will be certain cities which are slightly affected. There will be certain cities which are very badly affected. So at the end of the day, the whole idea was to have a discussion with my team and understand what are their concerns, try to address those concerns, having discussions with my distributors who used to be basically what are their concerns, and then ultimately deciding how to go about business. I think my territory that I left 2-3 months back has been one of the top performing territories right now. So that's the bit. I think if you treat people like people, they will do anything for you.
So is the job role, obviously maybe the responsibilities might be a little different, but is it very different for a national key account manager from say a key account manager, as in, or is just because of
So no, so basically key account. So again, different companies. So
obviously the
two
national
two
and
kinds of. National key account manager is basically I handle all the
or
ABRL stores in India.
right.
The business that we get out of all the ABRL, all the Spencers of the country. That is what my role largely is. And I think there are regional key account managers whose job has more to do with ensuring that business at a regional level. Largely the difference is that I am more involved in the strategic bit rather than a key account manager. Their job is to interact with the store. My job is to interact with the category manager. So that is the difference between a national key account manager and the regional key account manager.
Okay. And can you tell us the career progression that one has to follow to become a national key account manager, maybe at RB
Be an
or one of
ASM,
FM,
perform, and then you become a national key account manager. I think people,
FMCG
a lot
sector?
of people give up. A lot of people don't have patience. I
Okay.
think this is important for everyone. Have patience in terms of your career. Building a career is not a 100-meter race, it's a marathon.
Mm.
Be patient with your career, give time to your organization, understand what your organization thinks about you, and then plan your career. Because trust me, you will have moments where you will see that, okay, our mera best friend has changed his organization, his CTC has become X, it is 1.5x of my CTC, and you start questioning your self-worth because of that. I think that's the biggest mistake people do. That's the biggest reason why people keep changing key. This company is offering this much CTC, but at the end of the day, think holistically about your career. I think there were moments that I was considering that, okay, I will move to another organization, I'll move to a startup where they will pay me out of the roof. But
Mm.
trust me, right now I think that I'm the luckiest person in the world if I decided to stay back in RB. I think that was the biggest turning point, and I think the startups that I was planning to join are laying off people left, right, and center. So I think that's the bit. Think about your career because you are going to live with your career.
Correct.
Nobody else is.
Mm. A student is asking, I'm currently preparing for CAT 2020, but have no idea which stream to opt for in MBA. How to go about it?
One problem at a time. Let's crack CAT. So that is again. Trust me, you will have more than enough time to decide which stream you want to get into, which career path you want to choose, which kind of a role you want to do. Uh, First, focus on clearing CAT. Once you clear the CAT, you need to focus on clearing the GDPI sessions. That is the bit, and then you think about what next. Once you have that, admit that, okay, you have been admitted to this college, then think about it. Right now is not the time. Right now is the time to focus completely on CAT.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So is it possible for a candidate from a tier 3 college, if he has performed well over there, to get a really good company which goes to only top colleges for placement? Can he also get
uh,
a really good
Tier
package
3 MBA college, what?
B
I
schools? Yeah, as in not
Again,
from
it's
the
difficult. I think obviously it's not impossible. Obviously, as I said that tier so even in so like just give you an example of RB. We have a management trainee batch, we have a graduate trainee batch, and in the middle or along graduate trainee batch, we have a SLP batch. So SLP batch is basically the kind of batch wherein we take individuals from tier 2, tier 3 B schools. I would not name
huh,
any
yeah,
B school, but you can Google it.
correct.
But yeah, so basically even tier 2, tier 3 B schools, because at the end of the day, I think there will be talented people everywhere.
Correct, yeah.
And that is why there are certain organizations which have this policy wherein in fact, a lot of times these SLP batches is like much better than the MBS from IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore.
Okay.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Somebody
don't judge
joined a
yourself
bit.
basis the B school you are in. At the end of the day, I think it's all about self worth. Because if you consider
Somebody
that you are a rock star, you will be a rock star.
yeah. Somebody joined a little late and is asking which B school. Yeah, Tanmay, our speaker is from NMIMS. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, somebody has asked, dear sir, I wish to know what is the most ideal way to create a CV so as that the interviewer gets a really good impression about the interview. Yeah, as in how to build a
So
profile, basically. Yeah.
So again, your CV will largely depend upon the sector that you're applying. And obviously, if you're applying for a finance role, then your CV needs to have the finance bent of, work that you have done. If you are into sales and marketing, obviously, it will largely be to do with multiple projects that you might have done. Once you get into B school, obviously, there will be people whose CVs will not have a lot of stuff to put in. I also had one of those CVs. So yeah, obviously you start doing projects, you start picking up projects, you start doing things. First of all, you need to be clear that uh, this is one thing that I want to do. So you can't be that finance bhi karenge, sales bhi karenge, marketing bhi karenge, consulting bhi karenge, IT bhi karenge. you need to be clear within the first month of your joining the B school that this is where I want to be. And once you are there, then start picking up projects. You get corporate projects and small projects there to compete, and MBA school, and a lot of these portals have different companies putting in projects. Some companies also give stipends, so that is a good thing. But even if there is no stipend, it's okay. I think it's more to do with learning. I think maybe you can get in touch with the alums that you might have. They might have some small project which might add value to you in terms of your CV, because I think that's what you have. I think it's more important for the freshers, especially because freshers don't have any work experience. They do not have a lot to talk about. So I think it's important for you to utilize the first 4 or 5 months of your B school to build your profile, and obviously join any committees or clubs that you might like. It again, it's not necessary. I was not part of any club or committee, but know what you need to do, because I think you will know what your CV is today. There's not a lot you will be doing between today and joining the B school in June. I'm sure, because you will be obviously busy with the preparation. You'll be busy with GDPI post that, and so obviously if you're a fresher, you'll be working, and if you're working, there's not much you will be able to do any which way. So I think the first few months of your MBA is the most critical bit in terms of building your profile. So yeah.
Someone has asked, what are the roles which require creative insight after you are done with your MBA, as in sales and marketing? So I think sales and marketing itself is, I mean, you need creativity everywhere, I believe.
Yeah, you need
But anyway,
creativity
yeah.
everywhere. I think obviously, I think that is creative thinks, or she thinks maybe that it's got to do with making advertisements. Again, creativity is everywhere. I think different level of creativity is required. How you look at creativity is what matters. I think again, if you're thinking of that branding bit and everything, obviously joining one of these agencies which make advertisements or make concepts, storyboards, I think that is kind of, if you have a creative bent of mind, that is basically the artistic bent of mind, then maybe those are the sectors that you can go for. But I think there is not a single sector or a single job role which will not require you to be creative. Trust me, I have been an ESM and an NCAM. I have had to be a lot creative in a lot of things. So yeah.
How was your experience at NMIMS?
It was good. I think
Yeah, maybe
I think I'm talking to you guys, and largely that is because of my 2 years of MBA there. I think I have nothing to complain about. Uh, the only thing to complain was that there was a lack of hostel, but that was made up with the mall like setup that we had. And yeah, it was a very good experience. I think any B school, just try to live those 2 years, because they will be the best 2 years of your life largely, because after that it's a rat race. It's a rat race even when you're in B school, but slightly lesser. So yeah.
Someone was listening to you when you were talking about, how you used to be an introvert and all that. So somebody has asked, how do I improve those skills if I am not an extrovert?
So if you're scared of heights, you try to jump from, you do bungee jumping. So if you're scared of talking to people, you talk to people. That there is no rocket science to it. I think challenge yourself, talk to people, and it can be smallest of things. You might be a shy individual who might be shy of talking to even the shopkeeper. Go and talk to the shopkeeper. If you're sitting in an Uber, talk to the Uber driver. Talk about him. It's not, you are not doing anything any which way. He's not doing anything any which way. I think that's how you improve your communication skills.
And how COVID-19 will affect marketing job offers if someone starts an MBA in 2021? This is something that quite a
Frankly
few people
speaking,
have asked.
yeah, frankly speaking, I cannot predict right how COVID will turn out, when it will stop, when it will not stop. One thing that I can say with decent surety is that I think FMCG sector will be the least affected, because again, you are not going to stop using Harpic and all, and
in fact, people will be using more of all that.
exactly. So that is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Obviously, the most resilient sector in terms of COVID-19 will be FMCG. or the sector which largely works in the essential space. Other sectors are largely will definitely get affected. In fact, they have starting to get affected. You have seen the news of different startups laying off and rescinding offers. But one thing that I would like to tell all of each and every one of you is that I think during such a crisis, even during the 2009 crisis, I think the best place to be is in a college. I think you get insulated from a lot of problems. Your only job is to study and build yourself up. I think nobody knows what 2021 end would be like, 2022 end would be like, but what you need to ensure is that you do what your bit. Later on, everything sometimes you have to leave things to fate. So yeah, I think job market will be affected, but I am expecting by 2021 end things will be much better. And I'm sure
so it's a good idea to actually pursue an MBA right now.
Yeah, I think right now is the good time to pursue an MBA because the job market is badly affected and there have been huge layoffs. So I think being in a university or a college is the best place to be right now.
Does having multiple skill developing workshops help with the CV?
So again, I'll advise you one thing. There are different things. I think there are two kinds of people. There are people who do things for CV pointers. There are people who do things for themselves. I think try to be the second person. Because the people who will be taking your interview have gray hair for a reason. They know, they have sat through thousands of interviews. They know people better than you do. If you had some kind of a skill, say suppose I attended Excel workshop, just needs to ask you 3 to 4 Excel questions and he will know whether you know your things or not. So whatever you are doing, do not try to overestimate it in your CV, or definitely do not lie in your CV, because if you get caught, then you're out of that process. Simple as that. And obviously, so basically try to be honest and try to do things not to just add CV pointer, but ensure that you know everything. Whatever you're putting in your CV, you should be 110% thorough with it. If any question comes, you should be willing to, be able to answer that question.
Do I need to prepare for GDPR or do something for GDPR on daily basis along with CAT preparation starting from now for CAT 20?
Read newspapers. I think that is the only thing. Read newspapers. With COVID and everything, I think largely your group discussions will have a good number of COVID topics. So read up on COVID. Do not read on the scientific bit, but how it impacts. So there are multiple companies like McKinsey's of the world, BCG's. They are, predicting what post-COVID world will be like. So you can read those reports, how retail industry would get affected, how e-commerce industry will get affected, how finance and BFSI will get affected. So I think reading up on things is, right now you are all sitting at home. I think that is, you have a lot of time to read also.
Yeah.
So you cannot do quants for 12 hours a day. So obviously try to, change that flavor that, okay, I'll read newspaper for 1 hour in the morning. Then after that, I will do this quant. And then after that, I'll do verbal. And then again, I'll read some articles online. So I think that is how you need to prepare for GDP.
So we were taking up quite a few questions in between. So let me get back to one very important question about key account management. What are the top 5 key account management skills that one should have? And also another thing is, if you spot, can you spot a good potential key account manager? If yes, how?
Like, good key account manager would have, I think, I don't know if I can list 5, but I think the top of my head, whatever skills that I think communication skills is going to be one of the most important skill that you need to have. I think that is first bit. Second bit is you need to be smart and analytical. I think two different bits, smart and analytical. Analytical is being able to analyze data. Smart is being able to use that data in a conversation so that it serves your purpose. I think that is very important, because at the end of the day, it's a mental battle between you and the key account manager of the other company. And I think that is what's important, being smart. And yeah, I think good people management skills. I think you have to manage people and by managing people, it need not always be that people who report to you. Obviously, managing your bosses, managing external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, how do you talk to them? I think knowing those basic skills is more than enough. I think largely post MBA, the biggest skill that you should focus on developing is people management. I think it's very underrated and people do not talk a lot about it, but I think it's as important as any other skill. People management and communication, two skills if I would say that people should work on, is that people management and communication. Yeah.
And someone has asked how to improve your analytical skills if I want to be in a particular kind of
Analyze
sector.
more data. I
Yes.
think more often than not, the questions that you have the answers. I think how do you improve on analytical skills? Analyze your data. How
Maybe like,
do you
he's
improve your
asking for some
communication
tips or
skills?
something.
Communicate with as many people. No tips. I think rather a lot of us spend a lot of time in watching Netflix movies. If we spend some amount of time in watching Excel videos on YouTube, I think that is something that can help you a lot. So yeah, that's there.
So someone has asked this, but I think, yeah, you've covered already CV pointers and everything. Yeah, you've covered most of the questions. So is there anything as in a particular, what are the, so if someone is looking for a, what are the kind of job opportunities and how to how to plan a career uh, in sales and marketing, as in, if the person is absolutely sure, like, yes, this is what is the field that I want to get into. So this is like the last question I'm asking. So
Yeah.
so how do you decide, like, okay, I'm going to be this for these many years? Can you actually do that? Or can you plan it out exactly like that? That these many years I'm going to be an ASM, and then I'm going to become a key account
So
manager,
largely you can plan it,
something like
but
that.
again, you can't exactly plan that I'll be a key account management in 2020 January. So you can't do that.
But as a I mean,
Uh,
if you're a fresher and you've just completed your B school, and you've probably in placement opportunities in one of the good FMCG companies, you've got a job. So where do you start and how do you go up? Where do you start?
so you need to be very clear
In
that
sales and marketing, yeah.
yeah. So first of all, once you join a company post your MBA, you need to be very clear that uh, obviously the company that you are joining, you will know by talking to the seniors and the previous batches what is the chances and what are the kind of roles that are being offered. Obviously, most organizations have a management trainee stint, and the reason for the management trainee stint is twofold. First reason is that they want you to learn about the systems, the processes, how things work, and everything. Second is that they are basically gauging your capabilities. They are gauging how capable you are in terms of your skills, and gauging and trying to see if there are certain companies who offer brand management directly, like ITC does. It used to, at least, but right now it has reduced that. But it does. So at the end of the day, you need to understand that what are the key levers. There might be certain, the levers could be certain skills, that levers could be certain people. So obviously having a good impression on certain people obviously goes a long way. At the same time, having certain skills goes a long way. So you need to be clear that, okay, I have to be an ASM in this company. There's no chance that I'll be a marketing or a brand manager in the first 3 years. You need to be clear with that. You need to be clear with that, and you need to make sure that through the year, 2 3 years, you actually develop skills that ultimately help you to be a better brand manager or a better key account manager or whatever. Obviously, the career path that happens largely is not dependent on just you, because organization also has its needs and openings and opportunities. So basically the organization will obviously have, you will have a conversation with the organization that these are the opportunities available, these are the things that you can do. Then obviously there is a back and forth, and then you finally decide upon something that is good for you as well as the organization. So yeah, it's very dynamic. It's not right now. I cannot sit, if I was even with this all this knowledge that I have, if I go back 4 years and come out of my B school, I would not be able to tell you that 3 years down the line I'll be a key account manager or a trade marketing manager.
Right.
I think it's a very dynamic thing, and it depends on person to person, situation to situation, company to company.
Okay.
So yeah, but know the key levers basically.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tanmay. Before we wrap up, I would like to thank all of you attendees as well. And also next week, same time, we will bring you another speaker. So stay tuned. This is Kalyani Majumdar from IMS Future You, wishing you a great weekend. Stay home and stay safe. Good day. Thank you.
Thank you.